Do you feel like you've been going through a cycle that's been going on for many years? If so, this video is definitely going to be for you. I'm going to be talking about what I've learned from Pluto being in Capricorn for 15 years and what the shifts that are coming are beginning to feel like to me. And then at the end of the video, I'm going to be doing a little bit of a meditation slash clearing to end this giant cycle that we've all been in and to open us up to the best version of the new one that's coming. My name is Adam. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm a divine freedom and clarity coach. I help people get freedom in all areas of their life and clarity as to the bigger picture of what's going on with themselves and in the world. Now, before I begin, I just want to say I am not an astrologer. It doesn't matter. I am not huge on listening to astrology when it comes to every area of my life for one main reason, though there's many. The main one being I believe we are all more powerful than the stars, the planets, all of the above. Ultimately, I don't like to give my power away to anything because I'm a divine co-creator and a sovereign being. That said, you know, on a human level, the planets, the stars do have an effect on all of us individually and collectively. Now, what's been going on for me, I've been going through some chapter of my life, even though things have shifted a lot, they're shifting more now. I've been going through this sort of same kind of cycle for a very long time. And I was even thinking about when this started for me. And I was like, well, it kind of started back in 2008 when I got out of rehab. In 2006, I went into rehab. That was a big shift. But when I got out of rehab in 2008, my whole awakening began. I got into energy work, I got into trauma healing, I got into clearing my karma, healing myself, self-development, all of that. And I've been feeling recently like, when is this going to change? This was a chapter that needs to end now. And then I came upon, you know, some different astrology articles stating about how Pluto has been in Capricorn for 15 years. And it came out for a couple months at the, you know, this year, March to June, and it's coming out at the beginning of next year and going into Aquarius. Then it goes back into Capricorn for a couple months, and then it's in Aquarius for 20 years. Now, I'm not going to get big into what this means for the collective. Aquarius is about community, societal changes, upheavals, transformation as far as how we perceive power and authority and relate to it. And it definitely feels like that's coming up. But all in all, I want to address this on more of a personal level so that you can relate to how you can see how this might be affecting you and how the personal connects to the collective, because as the collective shifts, the personal shifts as well. So what have I learned and for the past 15 years? Well, I actually am a Capricorn. I'm a Capricorn Sagittarius cusp. I identify more with being a Sagittarius, but I definitely relate to being a Capricorn. So Capricorn for me has been an immensely frustrating frickin' sign. Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, which some people might say is the devil. And I would tend to agree. Anyway, for the past 15 years, my life has felt extremely restrictive. Very, very limiting. Like there's just been this heavy ball of dark shit just grinding down on me and refining me the whole time. I would say the last 15 years have been primarily a long-term dark night of the soul, even though there have been some periods that weren't dark night of the soul. There have been some decent things that have happened, but the majority of what it's been for me has been this very intense internal healing process. I have recycled and cycled through the same sorts of lessons over and over and over again. Now, every time I do this, I've leveled up. Every time I've done this, I've gotten more clarity, more insight, more expansion. I've released more things within myself, but it seemed like, well, how many times do I have to clear the same thing? How many times do I have to work on the same issue? And ongoingly, we do kind of work on the same issues into the future. But at some point, I've always had this belief that that at some point there's like a chasm to jump. There's like a book ends and a new book begins. And though I might still be working on some of the similar topics in the new book, it would be from a totally new frame of reference. For me, I've wanted to manifest a divine union partnership. And what I've manifested over and over and over again has been unavailable soulmates and rejection and trauma and inner healing and having to go into like learning self-love on a deeper and deeper level. And the people I've manifested have leveled up in different ways. It wasn't as difficult. It wasn't as hard. I went from one woman who I just wasn't ready for to then like healing and healing and healing and then manifesting soulmates that weren't ready for me, even though it still felt like a rejection because they weren't available. So I've leveled up and up and up, but that still hasn't happened. So where in your life have you been going through a similar thing? Where in your life have you been going through the same sorts of cycles and patterns and lessons over and over and over again? And how will it look and how can it look when you shift and just make the intention to make this enormous leap into a whole new framework, reference point, reality, and timeline? Again, a lot of my lessons have been around power. They've been around authority. I've had a lot of jobs that were very frustrating. I've had a lot of anger and resentment at the system. I've had a lot of anger and resentment at the struggle, at how difficult life can be, at how exhausting it is, when you have chronic fatigue and you got to work 2 jobs and you don't have enough money to make ends meet. And there's not a lot of love and a lot of joy in your life except what you can harvest internally from a spiritual awakening process. A lot of my path has been very isolated, very alone, very in the dark, but very healing. And there are so many gifts that I've gotten from this. I've gotten immense amounts of self-love. I've gotten immense amounts of power within myself in a healthy, balanced way. A shit ton of resilience, grit, strength, the ability to persevere at any and all costs, like how to transcend limitations and restrictions, how to accept and surrender to limitations and restrictions. This is all, Capricorn, the dark aspect of Saturn and the gifts that it has to give us, how to go over and over and over again for things that I wanted and not get them, and to reward myself internally in spite of not getting them, how to learn how to let go of attachment to my goals, to my achievements, and only find that within myself. This is one of the lessons I've learned, and I also feel like for many people on an awakening process, this is one of the lessons that they've been going through as well. A lot of the people that I talk to relate very much to this past big phase of time. They don't necessarily say 15 years as being a very sort of isolated and alone time with themselves and integrating with their soul. And I think that this, again, is a collective thing. We were meant to go into ourselves, to separate from the old patterns of how we would relate to each other. Sometimes, if you need to change a pattern, you just have to shut out everyone for a while and completely clear it on your own and work on it on your own until you can come back and intermingle and relate with others in a new, healthier way. And what can happen is we can develop the belief systems that, we're meant to be alone, or we're meant to be isolated, or spirituality means like just being by yourself with God and not having soul family, soulmates, or any of these things show up and work. I feel that it's time for that chapter to end, and I feel that it's time for us now to begin to step into these new sort of community spaces, which is Pluto and Aquarius. Again, I don't know a lot about it, but I know enough just from going through it internally, and I read blogs and I'm like, that feels true, and that's this person's projection or whatever. Pluto in Aquarius is about societal change. It's also about coming into connection with community. And a video I watched the other day is also about how when Pluto goes into Aquarius, it also activates the other side of Aquarius, which is Leo. So Leo is all about power, personal power, like being heart-centered, being honored for your gifts, expressing your truth to the world, not taking any shit, standing up for yourself, right? Really being the king, queen of the jungle in a very healthy, balanced way. So how can you kind of do a little bit of a review on the last 15 years of your life? What has been coming up? What are the patterns that have repeated over and over and over again? What are the little tail ends of things that need to be completed or resolved so that you can cut the cord to this last period of time, both individually and collectively, and step into the best version of the reality that's coming with Pluto going into Aquarius? And I want to do a quick little meditation right now on this. So you want to just take, it's a little meditation energy clearing. So you want to just take a minute, relax, come into your body. Just notice your feet on the floor. Notice your hands a little bit. Just notice the sensations in your body. And give your higher self permission to come in and guide you a little bit. And just ask, without thinking, just notice, what have the patterns been that have been repeating? What are the overall lessons from this past huge chapter of time? What is it that I am ready to release now, both personally and collectively, as far as how I operate in my own individual life and how I operate along with the collective? And just notice what comes up. One of the biggest lessons that anyone can learn, in my opinion, is the balance between being connected to the collective and unity consciousness and being individuated and being an individual. One does not exclude the other. It's kind of a level of mastery that needs to happen in order to really get this. So ask, what would that look like for you? What would it look like to come out of isolation, spiritual loneliness, disconnection from others, to fully embrace your own sovereign connection to spirit and to your soul, and also open the door to what so many of us have wanted for so long, divine union partnerships, soul family connections, communities, spiritual communities, having a good time, transforming society in a very positive way, regardless of what the shadow says or how it comes up. And just notice what clears. Just give permission for anything that's standing in the way of this transition to clear and release once and for all. Take the book, the whole book of the last 15 years, and just toss it. Toss it into a fire. Toss it into the spirit world and let it dissolve. Harvest the lessons and prepare to write a new one. Notice what that feels like. Notice what comes to you. Give permission for the clearing to happen, and give permission for your higher self to bring in the new template for this next chapter of your life. How do you now come into community and still remain in your best individual self and reality at the same time? How do you do both? How do you put yourself first and also now connect and co-create and harmonize with others? And give permission for the rest of this year and the beginning of January to just start to integrate this information. Awesome. Notice your body a little more. Notice if there's anything to just shake out a little bit. Shake out your legs, shake out your hands. Send anything you don't need out the top of your head. Send it into the earth. And just see yourself. It's almost like walking out of an old ballroom with your old life, the people that don't resonate anymore, the jobs that don't resonate anymore, shutting the door on the whole thing and walking into a new one. What would be in your new ballroom? Who would be there? You may not know specifically What frequencies, what experiences, what are you ready to create? Because it is time to write a whole new book now. Good. It is done. It is done. It is done. Feel free to meditate a little longer here if you want, or go back and watch it again. Thank you so much. If you need a little extra help, I have an energy clearing in the description below. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Let me know if you resonate or had any breakthroughs or revelations from the video or the meditation. Other than that, thank you so much. I look forward to next time. Peace.